Cash is king for small businesses. We all know this. We've all heard it. We've heard it 1,000 times. Yet the number one headache for small and mid-sized companies is managing their cash. Why is that? We've heard this over and over and over again. Why? The number one reason businesses fail is poor cash management. So we're going to look into this today. We're going to find out collecting the cash. How do we do that? So rather than me trying to figure it out, we have got an expert. Today, we have Dee Bowden, and she is a best-selling author of the book, Collect the Cash, and she is considered one of the most creative cash collectors in the nation. So we got an expert here. You need to hear what she has to say. Dee, welcome to Business Secrets for Walking on Water.
Well, Frank, thank you so very much. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to your fabulous listeners around the world. I'm excited to be back on the platform talking about all things Collect the Cash. Definitely.
This is exciting. This is exciting. Given what we have been through the last 18 months.
Yeah.
How did you get into this?
You know what, Frank, that's a great question. So I was just sharing with you that watching COVID last year, I call COVID God's timeout. And people are like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Well, and this way, and you can take it religiously or not. That's not the point. The point is, when I watched COVID happen last year, I saw a few things. Number one, I'm a person that loves theater. So I love theater. I love sports. And when I saw these major businesses shut down, that was a clear sign that, number one, there were small businesses that had contracts with those companies that weren't able to do it. So, for example, picture Broadway shutting down, Times Square, New York City. All the theaters, all the plays, all the musicals shut down. Number two, all the theaters that had contracts with small business owners who had planned to sell tchotchkes and T-shirts and mugs and all the things, they had contracts in advance to sell those products and services, weren't able to do it because theaters were shut down. If you like sports, all the major league arenas were closed except for the players could play, but there were no fans. But in that meant that all the businesses that had contracts to sell the T-shirts, the popcorn, the whatever, weren't able to make money. So I'm watching my journey of working for a small business that went out of business replay over and over and over again. And I'm thinking, okay, business owners need to know this. Collect the cash is the sale is not complete until the money's in the bank, but you must collect it first. And if this wasn't a wake-up call to pay attention to your cash flow, I don't know what would have been, because that was the thing for me. It was like, and I was sharing, I watched my story replay over and over again because I looked at Broadway, Major League Baseball, all the things, and I'm thinking, okay, how many businesses had contracts with small business owners? Number one. Number two, they were not able to sell based on, because you imagine the contracts were probably already in place. And they said, okay, on opening day, we're going to sell this. Sell it. You can't do that because you couldn't go to the stadium. And so I'm watching businesses that had contracts for supplies and services not being able to make money, lose money, file bankruptcy, a whole bunch of things over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, my book coach said to me, Dee, you have to tell your story. You have to let business owners know why accounts receivable, AKA collecting the cash, matters, and that you have to stay on top of this, and that you cannot think because you got the sale that the money's already in the bank. You actually have to provide the product or the service. And if you're not comfortable with asking for the money, you have to grow up and do that part, or find somebody who likes to do it more than you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your book is called Collect the Cash, and it took off like a skyrocket. It was just incredible. In fact, Dee's picture was in Times Square on the big screen with the promotion of the book. That's how important collecting the cash and being aware of your cash management is. Now, Dee, even before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
this was a problem. Why?
Yes.
You're a pro at this. You're an expert at this. Why do so many small businesses have such a problem with this?
Frank, great question. Here's why they have a lot of problem with it. Number one, they don't have systems in place to track their accounts. Here's the thing. When you're a small business or medium-sized business, you're super excited about this thing. I got my sale. And you're like, yes, I got my sale. But, I say collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. So you don't have a system to track how many sales do you have? How many customers do you have? How much is the contract worth? How many products are you selling to them? How many invoices did you send out? And then most importantly, when are you supposed to get paid? They don't like to do that part of tracking because it's not sexy and it's not fun. And I'm like, but in my world, it's very sexy and it's very fun.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. Everything in business gets tracked. You track everything. And when you don't track this part, that's how things slip through the cracks. Because you've been in sales a long time. You usually have quotas and you know how many people you've spoken to and how many sales are going to go through the process. You think, okay, I'm going to close this sale. You track that so you know, yep, this is going to become a sale, or no, it's not. Once you get the sale, you got to track all the other things. When you deliver the product or service, when do you invoice, and then when you get paid. I get it, because once you get the contract, the thing you don't want to do is ruin the relationship with your vendor. That's why you don't go and ask them for the payment, even though you're due it. You're owed it. You're like, I don't want to ask them. And I'm like, no, you need to, I say it this way. If you were comfortable to ask for the sale, then you need to be just as comfortable to ask for the money for what you did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things, having come up through the sales ranks,
right,
you're absolutely right. And in most organizations, it's separated. Sale comes in, now it goes over to another group, usually someone in accounting, in the receivable, payables, whatever. Now for most part, when I was coming up, they're not paid for collecting the cash. That's your job. Get it done, right? Salesperson's paid. If the cash doesn't come in many cases, then they don't get paid, right? So and it's a very touchy subject for a lot of business owners. So when you go in and they say, oh my God, how do you start a conversation with these business owners who are really tentative and hesitant here?
Well, first thing we usually do is I like to start off. I say, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. Let's talk. And I start off with, seriously, I start with diffusing the fact that they're already stressed. By the time you talk to me, I already know you're stressed. So let's start, seriously, let's go get a cup of coffee. Or I'm a tea drinker, so I'm getting tea. Number 2, bring me the list of your accounts and let's have the conversation. Answer this question for me. What had happened? Or what had happened was, because that's the question we're answering. We're looking for, tell me the story of what happened that you didn't get paid. And usually it's like, well, Dee, I did the work, I invoiced the client, I made a couple of calls, and then, I ran into some story. Okay. And so basically what I tell them is that, number 1, in order to collect the cash, you have to do 3 things. You have to do problem solving. You got to answer the question, what had happened was, why didn't you get paid? Number 2, as a business owner, you or the people who work with you are responsible for customer service. If you didn't get paid, somebody has to start the process of investigating. Okay, did you submit the invoice to the right department? Number 1, if they ordered 10 sets of sneakers and they only got 8, you got to fix the problem. Number 3, I personally believe in gratitude. And people are like, Dee, what does gratitude have to do with collecting the cash? Everything. Because you're not just collecting the cash, you're building a relationship. When you express gratitude for the people who cut that check for you, that's super important. But number 2, when they help you find out what went wrong, why you didn't get paid, that's a chance to say thank you. Because here's the thing, when they show you the mistake that was made, you get a chance to course correct it. Because sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's a simple data entry error that was made. You don't know it. Sometimes you ordered 10 sets of sneakers, you only got 8. But nobody knew that until you got your order and you're like, oh crap, I only got 8 sneakers. I was supposed to get 10. What happened? It's all those things. And so getting business owners to get comfortable with problem solving, doing better with customer service and expressing gratitude is what I do. And then we set up the tracking system to find out, show me the state of your accounts, because I can't fix your problem or teach you what to do until you show me what's going on. It's no different than when you go to the doctor. He or she comes in, and they start asking you a bunch of questions. What are they doing? They're problem solving. They're fact finding. They're trying to get to the issue so they can tell you what you need to do to fix it. Same thing here. We have to find out, where's the breakdown? Was it a data entry error? Was it that you didn't fulfill everything? Did you have the wrong information? How about this? How about you didn't prepare a proper invoice and send it to the right people? You missed something. You forgot to put the contract number. You forgot to tell them that you sold them 10 sets of sneakers. You forgot to put your remittance address on the invoice, so they have no idea who to send a check to. All those things impact whether you can collect the cash. And those are the details that most people are like, oh man, I don't want to do that. But hey, you want to get paid, right? You got to fix that part.
Exactly. One of the things that I found when I was a CEO was it was such a pain in the neck. It really was. And even the people that we would bring in, if you're a small business, you're not bringing in the high-paid individuals because you don't have the money to pay high-paid individuals. So we started outsourcing it. And we just said, look, we just won't have that department, right? We'll go get a professional group. And this is what they do. Are you seeing more and more of that happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm seeing it because, unfortunately, it's a good thing. But I also think that the small business owners, before you start outsourcing, you need to know what's going on with your sales.
Absolutely.
Before you outsource it, you should know this. I'm not saying you have to do all the things, but you should know how many sales do you have? How much revenue is expected in? You need to know that. And then if you realize, okay, I'm not really good at doing this, then outsource it to someone who's good at doing that, and have them come alongside you, and also make sure that they will explain to you what's going on. Because you can outsource something to somebody and say, okay, just manage this for me, and you never check in. You assume everything is correct. And then when you get those oops, you're like, well, you didn't tell me. Well, you didn't check in and make sure everything was cool either. That part.
Absolutely. That for a lot of business owners, it's so critical. I give a talk on this. I'm giving a talk later today.
Oh, nice.
Business owners tend to overextend, right? We juggle 20 balls.
Yes.
We're constantly putting out fires, and 18 of the 20 balls hit the ground, right? Because you can't juggle 20 balls. It can't be done.
Right.
And since we're constantly putting out fires, we're working in the business. I told one business owner, Dee, you're the highest paid clerk in your company. Do you want to be a clerk? If so, keep doing what you're doing. Do you want to be a leader and a business owner? Then let's get aware of what's happening here. Get your arms around the problem. And if you don't understand the problem, get somebody who knows it. The biggest thing to tell people is what sinks most organizations is not what they know. It's what they don't know. Right.
And and that's a good point, Frank, because here's what I'm finding and having these conversations. When you start your business because you're an expert, or you're really good at a craft or a skill. That part. But that doesn't mean because you are good at that part, you know how to run a business. You don't know all the things. Because if you think about it, most of us who start our small business, we were an employee for somebody else first.
Yes.
So all the things in business were already established. The sales department, the marketing, the IT, finance, all the departments were already there. When you start your own small business, especially if you're a solopreneur or a small business, you are all the things. You are all the things. And so when you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to market, you don't know IT, you don't know finance, you don't know all the things, you're like, man, I didn't realize it was this difficult. It is because it's now you who has to figure out all the things. So you have to be willing to acknowledge what you don't know, and then to be able to partner with people who do know how to do this. And that takes time. That's part of the building relationships, including your sales part, the marketing part, the IT part, the finance part, finding an accountant that you can work with, and then acknowledging that piece. And then you have to continue to educate yourself. That's one thing that small business owners don't do a lot of is they don't invest in themselves. They just kind of wing it. And you in order for you to get better at this, you have to invest in yourself. That means you take classes. That means you're dealing with the Small Business Administration, or you're dealing with SCORE. You're getting a mentor. You're taking classes. You're going to the local community college. You're looking for ways to learn how to do this better, because you can't grow unless you invest in yourself. Until you invest more time in you, that's how you get better. And if you want to see your business do better, you spend more time working on you, your mindset, how you think about things. If you hate problem solving, you can't be in business long, because business is problem solving. That's what they do. They come up with the next new widget, and they believe that their widget is the best widget since yesterday. And then we got to convince everybody that it is. All the businesses that we admire, they were all small businesses first, and they came into the market to solve a problem. And then when they figured out that they could solve the problem, they invested in themselves. And when you hear their stories, they'll tell you, we went to school, we tried different things, we tested things, and then we realized, wow, we don't know how to do all these things. So we need to collaborate. We need to get other people to come on board and help us grow this thing.
That's critical. What you just said right there is so important. Not only what you don't know, but what you know is not as important as who you know. That's the second big component, right? And I talk to so many business people who are starting and not just starting up, but they're already in business. And I look at, who are your go-to people? Oh, it's my frat brother. It's the professor I had in college. It's his family member. And they're wonderful people, but they haven't been there. So you have to surround yourself with people who have been there and done that. And the best executives I've ever dealt with surround themselves with people who are far better than they are.
Absolutely.
In the area that they're working in. Somebody like you is brought in. That's wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep this short and sweet and to the point. We're just about out of time. I want to thank Dee again for coming and sharing her expertise on how to collect the cash, which is critical if they're going to stay in business. And this is every business owner, you need to go get this book. Get on Amazon now, order this book. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I say this every week, no matter what life throws at you, the obstacles, and it's going to throw a lot at you, as we heard again today, please do 3 things. Look up, get up, and never, ever give up. Start moving forward, and better times and better people like Dee will come into your life. If you want to know more about Dee, you can contact her at her website. You can get it through her book. You can contact me, and I'll make sure it gets to her. Now, you can see this on ROKU TV or on my YouTube channel, Frank Zaccari. If you go to YouTube, please subscribe. Last thing, I say this every week, none of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Dee showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me next week. We'll talk about another business secret to walking on water. Thank you again, Dee.
Thank you.